I would like to just talk to you about what you got out of it. Maximum 2 minutes per person. And then I'd like to tell me one thing you got out of it and one message you think you'll take home from it. So we want to start with Andrea, but we'll start with you, Michele. Great case you did. What did you get out of the course, or what did you like about it?
My rooms, my list. And from today, I take home a message which is, well, actually, I found out how powerful can be the strength. I don't know how to explain it, but I really did not expect such pressure to be pulled into a stenosis or pulled out. So the opposite side of my hand, standing that I have to be always gentle, and sometimes in this case a bit too much, because I needed to balance a bit more my my force against the patient who was pulling me in another direction. I don't know if it's clear what I want.
It is clear. You basically are trying to say that you were surprised by the force the esophagus could exert.
Yeah, indeed.
Great. And your take-home point? Is that your take-home point, or you got another?
No. My take-home point is to every time not take in consideration just the endoscopic view, but all the history of the patient,
yes,
the clinical
yes,
status,
yes,
the anamnesis, the previous treatments, to make your decision.
So I think that's in more than one situation. This is actually the part of my practice where that's most important, where we spend most time, where I get a case, and I think, oh, okay, now I have to really think about to look at the thing, because like with resection, you can look at the thing, make your decision, and you're often not wrong if you have experience. But in this case, you're going to be wrong, even if you have experience, if you don't bother to review the patient file. And that is very, very good advice, very important. So thank you very much for saying that. So a great work today as well. Really nicely demonstrating your skill to everybody. I think it's interesting you're saying mainly knowledge, aren't you? You're saying mainly that you've seen it, that you see it doesn't look different to what you already did, and that you're not saying practical skill, which is interesting. And so what you're saying, I kind of think, is that this knowledge is not widely available. And now that you have it,
it's not widely available, because you can watch a lot of that stuff. Listen, watch lectures, or listen to podcasts, but you can asking these questions as you go, and okay, why are you doing this? Why, are you gonna really tug at this now? Are you gonna pull here? And all of, and you see what happens. Because they always I wonder what would happen if I
And most of the people are turning off the screen at that point because they're not sure what's going on. Oh, you turn it off sometimes, but not often. So you're right. Yeah, you see the unfettered thing that happens.
Yeah, and I think that gives me it kind of adds to that, the courage of you need to take the next step. That's thank you so much.
No, thank you. PTN.
Yeah, great course, I think. We had some very interesting cases, and I was discussing before, I think, with Delphine, who's not here anymore, that I think indeed the practical skill is not that very difficult if you're doing if you're watching your technique. I think it's decision making in this part of the endoscopy that is most difficult, is assessing and taking everything into account before you start to do something, because the dilatation itself, not so difficult, but how do you choose which materials, and do you need to dilate, or should you go for something else? So it's strategizing that is difficult, I would say. But I think we learned a lot today.
What's your take home message?
Think before you do.
Could write that on my gravestone. Okay, so
Sure to do that.
as my advice to others, I would like to point out. Dr. Smith is getting a phone call. Can he speak? Or? Okay, tell me.
Again, as always, very interesting course. Okay, the cases were not always the more basic ones, but actually...
Now, these were not a basic course. I think we can just about agree on that.
The easy dilations when it goes well, something is not getting demonstrated, like the balloon getting pulled in, balloon getting pushed out. It was difficult. Like Marieva's case, it was difficult. So it was stressed and emphasized how you should fix the balloon, for example. The other thing that was emphasized in multiple cases is it's not like, oh, it's narrow, we dilate, or it's not narrow, we don't do anything. It's this and we do that. It's just often it's complex, multifactorial, and you need to think before you plan a procedure. So if we had just a standard peptic stenosis, that would just be easy to dilate, and then there was not actually.
I do think you're right. What I think you're saying, and what I think you mean is that we had cases which demonstrated what you do in difficult situations, and we did have a simple stricture. I mean, that fibrotic ring was a simple one, but we took an unsimple approach to it. Could have just dilated it, etc., etc. So yeah, I agree with that. Okay. And what is so complication management? I mean, we did manage a complication of a stent migration. We did not cause any complications. Imagine maybe nearly felt like he did, but he definitely didn't. So there are things which we discussed, and we discussed how to. Deconstruction, do you think it was deconstructed?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Step by step. Breaking a bit if the endoscopist or the nurse wanted to do it on autopilot, so that's no, absolutely.
Your key take home?
With the same as Peter-Jan, think it's not always so easy, like in stenting. Usually if it's an easy explanation, it's the right one, but in stenting and dilation, it's not always the case. So look for those.
Thank you, Andrea.
So I think it was a fantastic course, enjoyed it a lot. I think we were privileged also to have someone else's opinion, to have our colleagues, surgical colleagues here, who offered a different and very interesting point of view, like a multidisciplinary approach to the same problem. I think that knowledge is essential, as in all the fields of endoscopy, but here in particular, decision making is everything, and we have discussed it. So we have deconstructed both the decision making and also technical aspects, like how to deal with the nurse, who should hold the scope. For me, for example, take a message would be mind the guide wire yourself. And so all of these details, I think they are essential for those watching. I think everyone can learn a lot from this course. And my take-home message is know your enemy and also your friends. Like, know what you're doing, know all the stands you have available, know the guide wires, for example. So the knowledge of the equipment, I think, is essential here, because we have a lot of weapons.